Don't you dare stop at self-awareness. Here's what I mean. Today's post is all about something that I think has become, unfortunately, quite common and pervasive in our culture, which is just a perpetual victim mindset in people who are doing, spiritual growth or going to certain types of therapy, where they have just put the victim mindset on a growth trajectory and have never actually grown, but have just learned all the words and learned how to just explain their terrible behavior in a lot of words that sound nice and sound like therapy speak. The truth is, self-awareness is not that big of an accomplishment. For certain people, going from not knowing why they do something to knowing why they do something can be a big leap. But on a journey of personal growth, this is step one. This is the bare minimum. Just as a fun example, like if you wanted to stop gambling and you just learned how to explain where your desire to gamble had come from in your childhood and why you were attracted to gambling, and then just went and continued talking about why you gamble, you have not grown. You have just taken step one, which is understanding something, just self-awareness. But if you're on a journey of personal growth, that means change. And growth has only occurred when change has happened. If you have just gone from nothing to self-awareness, you have not grown. You have just learned why you do something stupid and annoying. And the reason I wrote today's post is because I run into these people over and over and over again who are so afraid of depth and facing problems. I've spent a lot of time in spiritual communities and live very close to Boulder, Colorado, where I meet a lot of people who are very into spiritual bypassing. And it's unfortunately so pervasive. When I was on my 2-year journey through Central and South America, I spent a lot of time in spiritual communities and I had a ton of fun, but I kept meeting a certain type of person. They tended to be digital nomads or burned out workers from corporate America who discovered spirituality and just hung on to it, thinking that it was going to save them because it was the opposite of the rigidity that they were so used to. So they lost themselves in it instead of what they had lost themselves in before. They leaned into flow, just drank smoothies and ayahuasca left and right, hung out in spiritual communities, and phrased the simplest things about their day in grandiose terms about the universe or couched them in astrology or whatever. Most of them had done so much therapy, and I got so tired of listening to them talk about how they just learned to rephrase being a victim. They were very, very good at explaining why they deserved to sit around drinking smoothies all day and hooking up with each other, while the citizens of the country they were guests in waited on them hand and foot because they just wanted to pay less than living in the US or wherever they came from, while pretending like they were moving towards some sort of spiritual enlightenment and never facing anything hard. They contributed nothing, expected everything, and mastered the art of using therapy buzzwords to give the illusion of growth while never facing anything painful. And let me be clear, I had a great time in these communities. Flow and rest helped me a ton at the beginning of the journey I was on at the time. But eventually I had to graduate, I had to face some hard stuff, and I had to come home. So for anyone who's on a journey of personal growth, it is so important to understand that insight does not lead to behavior change. Going from zero to self-aware about a problem in your life does not actually do anything. The hard work is changing what those things are. Self-awareness is the bare minimum. People can be very self-aware and still be an absolute monster. If someone routinely robs convenience stores and steals purses from old ladies and then goes to therapy and just continues robbing convenience stores and snagging those purses while perfectly articulating why they do that, they haven't grown. They're on step one, the bare minimum. They're just what I call therapy wise. They just know the words, but they don't they haven't changed. And a lot of people get really good about talking about their feelings and issues, almost as a defense mechanism, which in some cases can actually delay real action. Being able to name the problem can feel like progress, so some people never get past that point. And it's understandable because many selfish behaviors feel amazing. Gambling feels great. Like hooking up with tons and tons of people feels amazing. But it always burns you. And living as a person of integrity means first understanding why you do that, then taking action and doing something about it. So for anyone who's in therapy or involved in personal growth, I want to help you ensure that you get some ROI on that time. And so here are some action steps to ensure that you don't become therapy wise. If you've been in therapy for a little while, ask yourself, is my life measurably better since starting therapy? If you still just do the stuff that you did and your life hasn't changed much, it's time to set a behavioral goal. So this means specifically breaking down, I will try to do Y instead of X in situation Z. For example, next time Jim brings up the dirty dishes, I will stay quiet for 10 seconds before responding when I feel defensive. Maybe I'll even avoid the whole situation by doing the dishes beforehand. Track your actions. That's the next step. Make sure that you keep a daily or weekly log. Think about, what did you actually do different this week? Be as honest with yourself as you possibly can. Small wins always count. Example, I did the dishes. Jim didn't have to talk to me about the dishes at all. Then, if you're struggling with those two steps, you need accountability. You need someone else to work with you. That can be the person who, just in that specific situation, that can be Jim. I'd like to be more attentive to common spaces in our house. Will you check in with me to make sure I'm remembering and making progress? And you can negotiate how it'll sound if it's helpful and not helpful. And then you can ask yourself, what am I doing differently since last however long? Do I seem like I've changed? I really hope that has given you a little bit of a roadmap into what it looks like to actually change behavior. Because all I want for anyone who's struggling with a behavior that is not serving them is for them to be able to walk out of it. And there are, unfortunately, not a lot of motivations for changing behavior, and for certain types of therapists, they are motivated to just keep you on the line and not help you with an action plan. That doesn't mean there's not great therapists out there. But I hope that for anyone who's starting down a journey of changing something that doesn't serve them, they understand that knowing why you do something is just step one. And you have to move past that in order for any serious behavior change to happen in your life.